In some sense, this weekly reading can be considered maybe the saddest of all the Parshiot. At least the saddest episode happened there, which according to Chazal happened on the 9th of Av, as I mentioned before, on Tisha B'Av, on our saddest day. And that is when the Jewish people did not want to fight for the land of Israel, did not want to conquer the land, and did not trust Hashem enough, or didn't think that they were worthy to do it. So I'm wondering if the current war of Israel against the Iranian nuclear program, could it be some kind of a tikkun for this? That, of course, the people are willing to risk their lives, and the whole nation is in danger. There were already some civilian casualties, and the risk was even greater that there would be more. Of course, a lot of times our people calculate to the extent that it's possible what might happen. It's known that before Six-Day War, which was also a case when it was forced upon Israel, the alternative was a total destruction, as Arab leaders were saying that they're planning to do another Holocaust. And the Jewish people were ready to have maybe hundreds of thousands of people dead. There were actually whole huge areas, mass graves that they were preparing in Tel Aviv and other areas. They digged up because they didn't think that it would be possible to bury each dead person. And that's what they were preparing for. So here also, right now, there were something like 20 plus people who died. Could have been thousands of people who would die, depending on how many of the missiles from Iran would not be intercepted and would fall on the populated areas of Tel Aviv and other cities. Whatever the case may be, Israel felt that there is no choice. They had to stop the Iranian nuclear program before the danger would be a million times greater if Iran would get nuclear weapons. Really, it's the third time already that Israel is saving not just themselves, but the world also. The first time was with Iraq. At that time, everybody criticized Israel, and then years later, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and the Americans and others got involved, and it's only because Saddam Hussein didn't have the nuclear weapons that they were able to win that war, and even that they were able to fight that war. Who knows what would have happened if Saddam Hussein had nuclear weapons. So at that time, Americans and others were thanking Israel. Now they understood what service Israel did for everybody. And then the same thing with Syria. Again, Israel bombs a nuclear reactor, and if they didn't do it, then Assad would have had the nuclear weapons by now. And now it's the third time that Israel is saving not just themselves, but the whole world. And I'm wondering to what extent it is a kind of tikkun, a kind of rectification for what happened 3,500 years ago when the Jews did not want to risk. They were crying all night. The Talmud tells us that this is the night when we cried for nothing. The Tisha B'Av that became the night when we would have reasons to cry. As I mentioned in the previous video, Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, became the saddest day of our year. And both temples were destroyed at that time. And the rebellion against the Romans in Beitar, the end of that rebellion was when they were trying to protect themselves in a fortress called Beitar, and that was destroyed on the Tisha B'Av. So it became the day when so many events happened to us. We were actually exiled from various countries throughout history on the Tisha B'Av. And a few other events happened on Tisha B'Av, as I mentioned in the previous video. So this particular war with Iran started in the previous Parsha, in Parshat Behalotcha. And there it says a verse which we pronounce, by the way, every time that Sefer Torah is taken. I mentioned that also in one of the lessons. Vayhi bin so Aaron, vayomer Moshe, kuma Hashem, vayafutzu oivecha, vayenusu misanecha mipanecha. Hashem, arise, your enemies will scatter. A very good verse for the beginning of that war. Kind of a good reminder. And by the way, as I mentioned in a different lesson, the Hanukkah rebellion also is hinted in the previous parsha. So the war started in Behalotcha, and now it's Parshat Shelach Lecha, which clearly clearly corresponds to the sin of the spies, and hopefully now that the Jewish people are willing to risk their lives in order to save themselves and save the land of Israel and save the whole world, maybe it's a kind of rectification. I don't know. But one thing I do know is that after this war, there will be true peace, real peace. As Kohelet, as Ecclesiastes says, et milchama ve'et shalom. Right? There is a time for war and there's a time for peace. It's the time for peace that follows the war, and that's the real peace, the peace that will reign afterwards. I'm hoping that the Iranian people, which very much a very special nation, with whom we have a lot of what's called hakarat hatov. We're thankful to the nation of Paras, right, Persians, for all the good things they did for us, and that they allowed us to build the second temple, and we were loyal to the Persian king until Alexander the Great conquered Persia. The Jewish people were loyal to the Persian king, and in general, we do remember all the good that they did, and we're hoping that one day the Iranian people again will be our greatest friends, as they should be. There's no reason why Jews and Iranians should be enemies. In fact, the vast majority of Iranians support Israel and are very pro-Jewish. It's the government of Iran that holds the power against its own people. That's the one that made it its main reason for existence, almost, right? The main purpose is the destruction of Israel. So now Israel is fighting a war which Bezrat Hashem will bring true peace among us. Maybe speedily see this happen.